and gentlemen, good evening, and welcome to the Copenhagen Theatre Circle's production of Neil Simon's The Good Doctor. The showtime tonight is approximately 2 hours and 40 minutes, including a 20-minute intermission. During the intermission, we kindly ask you to exit the theatre, as we have to do some scene changes. Flash photography is not permitted, and please remember to switch off your mobile phones. So lean back, welcome, and then enjoy the show.
Oh, it's quite all right. You're not disturbing me. I would much rather talk than work, actually. And yet, here I am, day after day, haunted by one thought. I must write, I must write, I must write. This is my study, or the room where I do my writing. I built it myself, actually. Cut the timber, fitted the logs, made an awful mess of it. I write here by the side of the room because the roof leaks directly over my desk. I've moved the desk, but it covers a hole I left in the floor. And the floor I built on the side of the hill, so in heavy rain, the room tends to slide downhill. Many's the day I've stood in this cabin and watched my neighbors pass me as they stand in the road. Still, I'm happy here, although I don't get enough visitors to suit me. People tend to shy away from writers. They assume we're always busy thinking. Not true. Even my dear sweet mother doesn't like to disturb me, so she always tiptoes up here and leaves my food outside the door. I haven't had a hot meal in years. But I've done a good deal of writing. Perhaps too much. I look out the window and think to myself that life is passing me at a furious rate. So I ask myself, what force is it that compels me to write so incessantly? Day after day, page after page, story after story. The answer is quite simple. I have no choice. I am a writer. Sometimes I think I may be mad. Oh, I'm quite harmless, I assure you. But I admit to fits of wandering. I'm engaged in conversations where I hear nothing and see only the silent movement of lips to answer a meaningless, yes, yes, of course. And all the while I'm thinking he'd make a wonderful character for a story, this one. So while I'm writing, I'm happy. I enjoy reading the proofs, but once it appears in print, I can't bear it. I see that it's all a mistake. It's all wrong. It ought never to have been written. And I'm miserable. Then the public reads it. Charming, clever, charming, clever. But a far cry from Tolstoy. Or a clever thing, but Turgenev's Fathers and Sons was better. And so it will be until my dying day. Charming and clever, charming and clever, nothing more. And when I die, my friends will pass by my grave and say, here lies so-and-so, a good writer, but Turgenev was better. Yes, it's funny, but before you came in here tonight, I was asking myself if I shouldn't just give it up one day. What would I do instead? Well, I have never freely admitted this before, but to you in the theatre here tonight, I would like to tell you what I most want to do with my life. You see, even as a child, I always excuse me for a moment. Just have to make a quick note. An idea occurred to me. A subject for a short story. Yes. Yes. It was my mentioning the theatre just now that sparked me. What was I talking about a moment ago? No matter. My thoughts are consumed with this new story. See if this appeals to you. It opens in a theatre. It opens on the first night of the new season. It opens with the arrival of those dear devoted patrons of the arts who wave and greet each other in the Grand Salon, commenting on how this one looks and how that one is dressed, scarcely knowing what play they are about to see this evening. With the exception of one man, Ivan Ilyich Chekhov. If Ivan Ilyich Chekhov, a civil servant, a clerk in the Ministry of Public Parks, had any passion in life at all, it was the theatre. He certainly had hopes and ambitions for higher office and had devoted his life to hard work, zeal and patience. Still, he would not deny himself his one true pleasure. So he had purchased 2 tickets for the best section of the theatre for the opening night performance of Rostov's The Bearded Countess. Oh, my goodness. As fortune would have it, into the theatre that night came his respected superior, General Mikhail Brasilov, Minister of Public Parks himself.
Good evening, General.
What? Oh, yes. Good evening.
Permit me, sir. I'm Chekhov. Ivan Ilyich. This is a great honor for me, sir.
Yes.
Like yourself, dear General, I too serve the Ministry of Public Parks. That is to say, I serve you, who is indeed himself the Minister of Public Parks. I'm Assistant Chief Clerk in the Department of Trees and Bushes.
Ah, yes. Keep up the good work. Lovely trees and bushes this year. Lovely.
My wife would very much like to say hello, sir. This is she, my wife, Madame Chekhov.
How do you do?
My pleasure.
My pleasure, General.
How do you do?
Madame Brasilov, my wife, Madame Chekhov.
How do you do, Madame Brasilov? How do you do? I just had the pleasure of meeting your husband.
And I am my wife's husband. Shh. How do you do, Madame Brasilov?
Sorry. Terribly sorry.
I hope you enjoy the play, sir.
I will if I could watch it.
Feeling quite pleased with himself for having made the most of this golden opportunity, Ivan Ilyich Chekhov sat back to enjoy The Bearded Countess. He was no longer a stranger to the Minister of Public Parks. They had become, if one wanted to be generous about it, familiar with each other. Then, quite suddenly, without warning, like a bolt from a grey thundering sky, Ivan Ilyich Chekhov reared back his head and...
I'm sorry, Your Excellency. I'm so terribly sorry.
Never mind. It's all right.
All right? It most certainly is not all right. It was unpardonable. It was monstrous of me.
You make too much of the matter. Then let it rest.
But how can I let it rest? It was inexcusable. Permit me to wipe your neck, General. It's the least I could do.
Leave it be. It's all right, I say.
But I splattered you, sir. Your complete head is splattered. It was an accident, I assure you, but it's disgusting.
Shh. I'm sorry. My apologies.
The thing is, General, it came completely without warning. It was out of my nose before I could stifle it. Shh. Shh. Yes, certainly. I'm sorry. It's not a cold, if that's what you're worrying about, sir. Probably a particle of dust in the nostril. Shh.
But try as he might, Chekhov could not put the incident out of his mind. The sneeze, itself no more than an innocent anatomical accident, grew out of all proportions in his mind until it resembled the angry roar of a cannon aimed squarely at the enemy camp. He played the incident back in his mind, slowing the procedure down so he could witness again, with horror, the infamous deed.
Yes, charming.
Charming, simply charming.
I found it utterly charming.
I was completely charmed by it.
Excuse me, Excellency?
What? Who's that? Who's that tapping?
I'm tapping, sir. I'm the tapper, Chekhov.
Stand back, dear. It's the sneezer.
No, it's quite all right. I'm all sneezed out. I was just concerned about your going into the night air with a damp head.
That. It was a trifle. A mere faux pas. Forget it, young man. Amusing play, don't you think? Did you find it amusing?
Oh, yes. So true. I haven't laughed as much in years.
And which part interested you the most?
The sneeze. When I sneezed on you, it was unforgivable, sir.
Forget it, young man. Come, my dear. It looks like rain, and I don't want to get my head wet again.
You shouldn't let people sneeze at you, my dear. You are not to be sneezed at.
I'm ruined. Ruined. He'll have me fired from trees and bushes. They'll send me down to branches and twigs.
Come, Ivan.
What?
You mustn't let it concern you. It was just a harmless little sneeze. The General's probably forgotten about it already.
Do you really think so?
No. I'm scared, Ivan.
And so they walked home in despair.
Perhaps if I send him a nice gift. Maybe some Turkish towels.
Chekhov's once promising career had literally been blown away.
Why did this happen to me? Why did I go to the theatre at all? Why didn't I sit in the balcony with people of our own class? They love sneezing on each other.
Come to bed, Ivan.
Perhaps if I call on the General and explain matters again, but in just a charming, honest and self-effacing manner, he would have no choice but to forgive me.
Maybe it's best not to remind him.
No, if ever I expect to become a gentleman, I must behave like one.
And so the next morning came. This happened to be the day the General listened to petitions. And as there were 50 or 60 petitioners ahead of him, Chekhov waited from morning till late afternoon.
Next! Next!
I'm not next, Your Excellency. I'm last.
Very well then. Last!
That's me, sir.
And what is your petition?
I have no petition, sir. I'm not a petitioner.
Then you waste my time.
Do you not recognize me, sir? We met last night under rather explosive circumstances. I'm the splatterer.
The what?
The sneezer. The one who sneezed. The sneezing splatterer.
Indeed. And what is it you want now? A gesundheit?
No, Excellency, your forgiveness. I just wanted to point out that there was no political or antisocial motivation behind my sneeze. It was a non-partisan, non-violent act of God. I cursed the day the protuberance formed itself on my face. It's a hateful nose, sir, but I am not responsible for its indiscretions. Punish that which committed the crime, but absolve the innocent body behind it. Exile my nose, but forgive me, your kindship. Forgive me.
My dear, Dear young man, I'm far too busy to have time for your nasal problems. I suggest you go home and take a hot bath. Take a cold one. Take something. But don't bother me with this silly business again. Jibber, jibber, jibber. That's all I've heard all day. Jibber, 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 jibber.
Thank you, sir. God bless you and your wife and your household. May your days be sweet and may your nights be better than your days.
The feeling of relief that came over Chekhov was enormous.
May the birds sing in the morning at your window and may your coffee be strong and hot.
The weight of the burden that was lifted was inestimable.
I worship the chair you sit on and the uniform you wear that sits on the chair that I worship.
He walked home, singing and whistling like a lark. Life was surely a marvel, a joy, a heavenly paradise.
Oh, God, I am happy!
And yet, when he came home, he began to think.
Have I been the butt of a cruel and thoughtless joke?
Had the minister toyed with him?
If he had no intention of punishing me, then why torment me so unmercifully?
If the sneeze meant so little to the minister, why did he deliberately cause Chekhov to writhe in his bed?
To twist in agony the entire night.
Chekhov was furious.
I am furious!
He foamed and fumed and paced during the night, and in the morning he called out for his wife. Sonia!
Sonia! I have been humiliated!
You? Who would humiliate you? You're such a kind and generous person.
I'll tell you who! General Brasov, the Minister of Public Parks!
What did he do?
The swine! I was humiliated in such subtle fashion it was almost indiscernible. The man's cunning is equal only to his cruelty. He practically forced me to come to his office to grovel and beg on my knees. I was reduced to a gibbering idiot.
You were that reduced?
I must go back and tell him what I think of him. The lower classes must speak up. The world must be made safe so that men of all nations and creeds, regardless of religion or colour, will be made safe to sneeze on his superiors. It is he who will be humiliated by I.
And so, the next morning Chekhov came to humiliate him.
Last. Well,
Well? Well, you say? Do you not recognize me, sir? Look at my face. Yes, you're quite correct. It is I once again.
it is you once again. Who?
Chekhov, Excellency. I have returned, having taken neither a hot bath nor a cold one.
Who let this filthy man in? What is it?
What is it? What is it, you ask? You sit there behind your desk and ask, what is it? You sit there in your lofty position as General and Minister of Public Parks, a member in high standing among the upper class, and ask me, a lowly civil servant, what is it? You sit there with full knowledge that there is no equality in this life. There are those of us who serve and those that are served, those who obey and those that are obeyed, those who bow and those that are bowed to. That in this life certain events take place that cause some of us to be humiliated and those that are the cause of that humiliation, and still you ask, what is it?
What is it? Don't stand there gibbering like an idiot. What is it you want?
I'll tell you what I want! I wanted to apologise again for sneezing on you. I wasn't sure if I made it clear it was an accident.